Good morning.
Morning.
Everyone. Welcome to whatever episode of Coffee and Christ. We're actually getting this done kind of early this morning. Because we have the farrier coming to trim horses. Man, I got cat hair all over my sweater. How come you didn't tell me I had cat hair on my sweater?
I tried a minute ago, but you were too busy ignoring me.
I was what?
Ignoring me.
I was...
Exactly. You need to scoot this way.
Yes, dear.
There he is, but let me...
No, you need... Look, we need to move the camera. Scissors. There we go.
Okay. Leviticus 11 is where we are.
11 through what?
13. Ready? Here we go.
No, I'm not ready. Huh. See, look, he's getting... Mm-hmm. See, you're taking pictures in my coffee cup.
I hit one button. That's the sound button. I don't know why it always does that.
Say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. There are some that only chew the cud or only have a divided hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams, you may eat any that have fins and scales. But all creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean by you. These are the birds you are to regard as unclean and not eat because they are unclean. The eagle.
Wait. Since I wasn't ready yet, what all is unclean, he's saying?
What do you mean since you were unready? You only missed the first word, the first line that the Lord said to Moses and Aaron. That's what you missed. That's it.
All the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that you cut.
Saying
Right.
anything,
So you can eat cows. Well, that's saying you can eat a camel too. Does people eat camels?
No, you can't eat a camel.
They chew cud.
No, but it does not have a split hoof.
A camel don't have split hoof? Mm-hmm. Babe.
It does not have a divided hoof.
It says a camel does not have a divided? Oh, the camel. Hold on.
I think somebody woke up ready to fight this morning.
No, I was not ready when you started it.
You missed one
Look,
line.
we didn't even get to remind people that we gave 2 Bibles away the day before yesterday. You just...
Why couldn't we have done that afterwards? We do not have a layout. This is totally ad-lib. So I can, when I want to.
What is a hyrax?
I don't know. That would have been a question I would have asked after we got through with this. Just saying.
What? It's saying don't chew rabbit? Don't eat rabbit?
Mm-hmm. It also says you can't eat catfish. A lot of people just cringed right when I said that.
Does it say catfish?
No, it says... Were you listening? Do we need to back up and do this again?
What?
Wing back up?
Yes, let's start it over. Take time out. Let's take 2.
Is there anything else you want to do during take 2?
Hey, congratulations to the
Did you see how quick he just kind
of that we did the Bible giveaway day before yesterday. One of them has contacted us. Joylyn. She's from the Philippines. She is super excited. She even sent pictures of where they live.
Yeah, we were asking her, like,
And I sent pictures of our farm back to her.
Yeah.
She was super stoked. So anyhow, really cool. And we have the one of the Bible. We have not made contact with her yet.
She's local here.
But she's local here. So anyhow, hopefully we'll get those ordered and sent out today. Hopefully, along with all the other things to do.
Are you ready?
Okay, is there anything else?
No, I just want to read this again. So that way whenever you ask me, I can answer it.
I literally woke straight up, put clothes on, came sit down. Good morning, babe. I love you. How are you this morning? Haven't even got to talk to you.
We had a conversation. We had 2. You sleeping? You were.
So you doing okay?
Good morning.
All right.
Somebody just woke up.
Here we go. We're going to start over.
Good morning, everybody.
7-8 minutes into it. All right. Hit the play button.
Are you ready now? It's a Kevin Farm show.
Today's Friday.
I do not know the difference between Friday and Wednesday.
Today's Friday. It's the freaking weekend.
That no longer means anything to me. I can remember when I appreciated Friday. Now I'm just happy to get up.
We had a new subscriber. She messaged us. That means a few people are watching. And I'm excited about that.
She's from another country too. Isn't she?
No, I don't think so.
I thought you were saying she was. Okay, here we go. Ready? Are you
Okay,
ready?
now I'm ready.
Are you?
Okay, now I'm ready.
Leviticus 11. The Lord said to Moses, now,
Wait.
say to
Nope.
the Israelites,
Just kidding.
of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. There are some that only chew the cud or only have a divided hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams, you may eat any that have fins and scales. But all creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean by you. These are the birds you are to regard as unclean and not eat because they are unclean: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat, those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of these you may eat any kind of locust, katyd, cricket, or grasshopper. But all other flying insects that have 4 legs you are to regard as unclean. You will make yourselves unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up one of their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every animal that does not have a divided hoof, or that does not chew the cud, is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them will be unclean. Of all the animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. These animals are unclean for you. Of the animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. The weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of all those that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. Whoever touches them, when they are dead, will be unclean till evening. When one of them dies and falls on something, that article, whatever its use, will be unclean, whether it is made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Put it in water. It will be unclean till evening, and then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. Any food you are allowed to eat that has come into contact with water from any such pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from such a pot is unclean. Anything that one of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean. An oven or cooking pot must be broken up. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean. But anyone who touches one of these carcasses is unclean. If a carcass falls on any seeds that are to be planted, they remain clean. But if water has been put on the seed and a carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. If an animal that you are allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches its carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of its carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. It is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creature that moves along the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on all fours or on many feet, it is unclean. Do not defile yourselves by any of these creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by means of them, or be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground. I am the Lord, who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore be holy, because I am holy. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves about in the water, and every creature that moves along the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten.
Oh,
Leviticus 12.
that's a whole lot of law right there.
Yeah, so
So what do you say to that? That is of the Muslim faith. That's they live by that. So, do you, as a Christian, do you follow, because most Christians don't follow this, do you follow that, or do you...
Some religions are, just from what I know, which isn't much, some religions are very strict with what they eat, and I mean, other than Muslims. If you're non-denominational, I don't know. It's very... I know that we've evolved. Like, okay, so at this point when we're reading this, not 2 chapters prior, we were reading about
splattering blood everywhere.
Sacrifice. So at this point, I know that at the time, I mean, if I were reading this book for the first time, right, I would have to put this into perspective that at the time they were still sacrificing animals and throwing blood everywhere. So we have evolved past this, so I can't say that at this point, when I read this, I read it at the time. I mean, that's just the way I read it. When I read it, I don't think, oh my gosh, I need to stop what I'm eating. Now, it does make me think about it. It makes me think, it makes me think of what I eat and how it applies to this law, this godly law, holy law. It does make me think about it, but it doesn't make me think I need to change my menu. So,
okay.
I mean, I'm kind of in the middle there, because at the time when I'm reading this in perspective as to where we were, because like I said, chapter before they were throwing blood everywhere.
Okay, so here's my answer to that, or here's my side of that. Jesus was sent, which required no more sacrificing.
No, Jesus was sacrificed.
That's what I'm saying. Jesus was
Not,
sent
he
to
wasn't,
death. Yeah, he was. He was sent to die on the cross.
But you said he was sent. He died to remove the sacrifice.
God sent his son.
Are we going to argue this morning?
Babe.
It's what you said. I got you. Keep going.
Anyhow, Jesus was sent to die on the cross. He was sent to us. He died for our sins, which when he died for that wiped out the requirement for any
I know that.
sacrificing. However, there is nothing that has wiped out the requirement for what to eat. So I think this is where people talk about religions just pick and choose what they want to out of the Bible. And reading that, I'm going to agree with it.
I don't disagree with it.
I agree that religions just, they pick and choose what they want to follow, what's convenient for them. Because if you say that you're reading it from the time that just 2 days ago we were reading about blood sacrifices and all this and that, do you choose to feel it's the same meaning of marriage today as it was back then?
What I said was, you said, what
I'm
do
just
you...
trying to clarify.
You're not cute. This is your cute face. That's when you do 2 hands. What I said was, you asked me how this settles with me, basically. And I said, well, as I read it, that's where I see it. I see it as, I'm waiting to see, as I read this, I know it's holy law, but I also was just reading about sacrifice. We have not gotten to the point where Jesus was sacrificed to replace that. So what I said was, it's like reading a book, and I'm waiting for what's going to happen. That's where I'm at when I read this. I don't get alarmed about what we eat. I think about what we eat, but I mean, I'm not going to get up and throw away anything in the freezer that doesn't apply. I mean, it makes me think about it.
Okay, so question. If we finish the Bible and there's nothing that says that you are now good to eat pork, or you're now good to eat anything from the water that does not have scales or fins.
No scales and fins.
Scales and fins.
Yeah.
You still good eating pork and catfish?
I don't know.
I'm good with it. I mean, I am.
I mean, I may feel conviction by the time we get. I mean, I don't know. By the time we get done and through the Bible, I may decide that I don't want to partake in eating pork or catfish. I may. I don't know, but right now I'm not.
You tell me you could even think about giving up the bacon?
I don't know.
You think about giving up the catfish?
I'd give up the catfish before I'd give up the bacon.
What about catfish fries at your daddy's house?
You just have to eat French
You
fries.
gonna tell him Dad I can't eat your catfish? I'm gonna tell him now. Here we go. I'm gonna tell him. Say, look out.
The point is I don't know. We're all moved, but I do agree sincerely that we take what we. I say we.
I think all religions
Yeah.
pick what they want out of
Yeah.
the Bible.
But as you read it, you can tell, certain things stand out that are pieced into other religions.
Does the Jews eat pork?
I don't know.
The only religion I know
I think
for
everything
sure
has to be kosher.
does not eat pork is Muslim.
It has to be kosher.
I don't think Muslims also do dogs. From when I was deployed, I think dogs were unclean. If I remember right, they were unclean over there.
Well, that's we got off in the menu part, but it says those that walk on their paws are unclean for you.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Is that all you got out of that? Was pork and catfish?
What were we on 12?
That's all you got out of that was pork and catfish.
I don't know if I did. Here we go.
Leviticus 12. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her monthly period. On the 8th day, the boy is to be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from her bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the days of her purification are over. If she gives birth to a daughter for 2 weeks, the woman will be unclean as during her period. Then she must wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding. When the days of her purification for a son or daughter are over, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting a year-old lamb for a burnt offering and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. He shall offer them before the Lord to make atonement for her, and then she will be ceremonially clean from her flow of blood. These are the regulations for the woman who gives birth to a boy or a girl. If she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be clean.
That's why sin.
That's what I was wondering. Why a sin offering? I didn't read the deals for.
I know, because you were hung up on bacon and catfish.
I was. That's bacon and catfish.
I don't know what.
Hold on. Okay, going back here. 11, 1 through 47. The elaborate dietary laws of this section illustrate the fact that God's relationship with his people extends even to the practical areas of everyday living. While we are not bound by the specifics of these dietary standards, While we are not bound by the specifics of these dietary standards, why not? Why aren't we bound by it?
I don't know.
We know that God is just as interested in the details of our lives. If our eating or drinking leads to excess, abuse, or poor health, God holds us accountable to deal with the problem, personal holiness relates even to mundane areas of life. So now, where does it say we are not held to this? That's what I need to know now. While we are not bound by the specifics of these dietary standards. So I need to know, I would need to know why. If it says it, why aren't we bound by it? 1144, what does it mean to be holy? It doesn't mean just to have a pious attitude towards God. A pious. P-I-O-U-S. Pious. Attitudes towards God. The Hebrew word literally means to be set apart, both unto God and from sin. This chapter emphasizes the aspect of being set apart unto God. These dietary laws and other guidelines for daily living gave the Israelites a unique identity as God's people. Also, God calls us to live calls us to lives of holiness. That didn't sound right at first. Calls us to lives of holiness, lives that clearly reflect God's standards. 44 through 45. God forbade the Israelites to touch crawling creatures. God may have given this law for logical reasons, such as concern for his people's health. It seems, however, that many of these laws were given for theological reasons. So the Israelites might be different from the surrounding nations, set apart or holy unto God. While God may sometimes show us logical reasons for obeying him, this should not be our primary motivation for obedience. We are to obey him because he calls us to be different, set apart, or holy, just as he is holy, and we can trust that his plan will lead us to discover the best for us, whether what he asks seems logical to us or not.
You know, that's interesting because we've kind of gotten off of the, I think all of the sacrificial details that we've been learning, we've been reading everything and taking it at its literal definition of the words, and for me, I've almost gotten off of what I had learned previously when we were reading, that some of the things that are said are not meant literally, whether it be time or some of the words that are used are not meant exactly as they may read or we may see today, or the definition may be broad scope as how it applies. So when we were reading this, we were looking at it as literally eating it. So I got stuck on eating it versus clean and unclean, because there was a lot of things that became, this is unclean, not don't eat it. The words, it wasn't said do not eat it. It just said it is clean or unclean. So it's not necessarily dietary reasons why he's saying it's clean or unclean, but don't touch it. It could be from safety reasons. It could be, like it said, to set them apart. But, I mean, it just because it's clean or unclean, it doesn't necessarily mean he's even talking about eating it. It could just mean don't touch it, it's bad. He left.
It clearly says, but you must not eat them. There are some that only chew the cud or only have a divided hoof.
I'm not talking about that area, honey.
Okay. All right, so then
I'm talking about every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. It says it is not to be eaten. And then lower it says, do not make yourselves unclean by the creature that moves along the ground. So it says don't eat it at one point, and then it just says don't make yourself unclean by touching it, or so don't touch it. I think there's other reasons.
So I get it says don't touch it or don't eat it, but just don't even touch it. but you're not even allowed to eat it.
Huh?
Hear me, huh?
Say that again.
So here's my question. If this book, because what it's talking about in the dialogue down here, if it's talking about, this was meant for the Israelites.
Oh, hold on. You were reading Old Testament stuff. I need to read this. Okay. Under the new covenant in Christ, we receive God's blessing by grace and not by works. Therefore, following Mosaic or Old Testament laws concerning food consumption is not necessary for Christians today. However, self-control is important and is one fruit of the Spirit. In addition, we are wise to recognize that many of the unclean foods in Leviticus are not considered healthful foods by nutritionists today for a wide variety of reasons. We should enjoy food as we need it, making healthy and selective decisions, appropriate portion sizes, remembering that in so doing we honor Him who has chosen our bodies to be His temple.
Okay, so you got what you said, but I would need, I know we're not to the New Testament yet. I would need to see where it says in the New Testament. Because again, that's going back to, okay, we've got Christianity is formed since the Bible. Well, we're only going to pick and choose and we're going to word it. But this is for all religions. We're going to word it to where it's convenient for us.
No.
Because if this book is designed...
That's not what I
hold on,
said.
just stay with me before I lose my thought. If this book, or where it talks about down here that this was the law specifically for Israelites, why do multiple religions use the Bible if this was only for Israelites?
That's not what I was saying.
Like why was there? I don't. And this is just a question off the top of my head.
What I'm saying is, some of the guides, and this says it too, some of the guides, which I hadn't even read that far, some of the guides in this clean and unclean food are not just about, it's not just eat this, don't eat this, but it's pay attention to your body. Don't eat this in extremes. Don't eat in large portions. You have to take care of, it goes back to you have to take care of your body because it's a temple.
Correct. I've always heard that.
Okay. So that's how some of this is. It's not verbatim. There's interpretation no matter what.
Right. So it's all just whoever wants to interpret it for their convenience. Am I right or wrong? I know it's a.
I don't think.
I know that's a crappy comment, but is it right or wrong?
No, it's not wrong. Why did you get the face like I can't believe you said I was wrong?
I said, is it right or wrong? You said no.
It's not wrong. Your face was like,
so you're saying,
you disagree with me?
So you're saying, so.
No, it's not. It's not wrong that that interpretation should be allowed in this way.
Let the transcript reflect. Was my comment right or was it wrong?
Well, no, you're right.
Okay. Just so the jury got that. Look, there's so many questions. Okay, so typically I've had different questions.
Living with him. I just want y'all to know.
Typically I've had different, little questions before I've ever read the Bible.
And then somebody said bacon. Now you done got crazy.
Like where were the dinosaurs? So that's always been a question, and that was my main question when we started this whole deal. Where did dinosaurs come into play here? So I had to ask a pastor. The more we're reading through it, it just opens more questions, and I think one of the biggest things to me that it would open is you can clearly see, just as we've gone through, you can clearly see, and this is just based off of Old Testament. We ain't even got to New Testament. We may get to the New Testament and said, hey, you know what? Everything in the Old Testament was wiped out. This is what you can do, blah, 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 blah. I don't know yet because I've never read through the Bible. But you can clearly see, one, you can see the different religions standing out
Yeah, you can
in the
tell
Old Testament.
what pieces go where. But
Right. But you can also see just the way Christians have interpreted the Bible for their...
That's your donkey. Okay, so let me ask you this. What So we agree that there are multiple religions.
Correct.
Okay.
Multiple religions that's been pulled out of one book.
We agree there are multiple religions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think the interpretation is what creates these individual religions.
Oh, yeah.
Because Catholics do not have the same ideology as Christians. It's close, but it's different.
Right.
I mean, it's not that close, but still.
It's pretty close.
Well,
the symbology, you know what I like about the Catholic religion? It's the symbology of everything, the symbolism of everything.
okay. So, one book, multiple religions. At some point, that's like if you have a family, and then you have, and each individual sibling has a different thought process of what they took from being, they're all different. They're raised by the same parents, right?
Mm.
That's the way I see religion. So there has to be pieces and parts of this Bible that they all take. I mean, you said it earlier. Well, we can see how they all took what worked best for them. I don't think the religions have developed over eons ago because it was beneficial to them. I think it was from the different tribes, the original tribes, and they took from their surroundings. They took their beliefs, and that's how. So this book was being written as they were all developing. Okay, here we go. You and your catfish and bacon.
Click it up the top.
Leviticus 13.
Here we go.
The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin that may be a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and if the hair on the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling skin disease. When the priest examines that person, he shall pronounce them ceremonially unclean. If the shiny spot on the skin is white, but does not appear to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again. And if the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the rash does spread in their skin after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine that person, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. When anyone has a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned the hair white, and if there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He is not to isolate them because they are already unclean. If the disease breaks out all over their skin, and, so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the affected person from head to foot, the priest is to examine them, And if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They have a defiling disease. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them. And if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and in the place where the boil was, a white swelling or reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it. And if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce that person unclean. It is a defiling skin disease that has broken out where the boil was. But if when the priest examines it, there is no white hair in it, and it is not more than skin deep, and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling disease. But if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it is only a scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When someone has a burn on their skin, and a reddish white or white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn, the priest is to examine the spot, and if the hair in it has turned white, and it appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. But if the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in the spot, and if it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine that person, and if it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a scar from the burn. If a man or woman has a sore on their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease on the head or chin. But if when the priest examines the sore, it does not seem to be more than skin deep and there is no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread and there is no yellow hair in it and it does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or woman must shave themselves except for the affected area, and the priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin and appears to be no more than skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the sore does spread in the skin after they are pronounced clean, the priest is to examine them. And if he finds that the sore has spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. If, however, the sore is unchanged, so far as the priest can see, and if black hair has not grown in it, the affected person is healed. They are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When a man or woman has white spots on the skin, the priest is to examine them. And if the spots are dull white, it is a harmless rash that has broken out on the skin. They are clean. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. But if he has a reddish white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him. And if the swollen sore on his head or forehead is reddish white, like a defiling skin disease, the man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of the sore on his head. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes. Let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. As for any fabric that is spoiled with a defiling mold, any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material of linen or wool, any leather, or anything made of leather, if the affected area in the fabric, the leather, the woven or knitted material, or any leather article is greenish or reddish, it is a defiling mold and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. On the 7th day, he is to examine it, and if the mold has spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather, whatever its use, it is a persistent defiling mold. The article is unclean. He must burn the fabric, the woven or knitted material of wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled, because the defiling mold is persistent. The article must be burned. But if when the priest examines it, the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather article, he shall order that the spoiled article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it again. And if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which side of the fabric has been spoiled. If when the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he is to tear the spoiled part out of the fabric, the leather, or the woven or knitted material. But if it reappears in the fabric, in the woven or knitted material, or in the leather article, it is a spreading mold. Whatever has the mold must be burned. Any fabric, woven, or knitted material, or any leather article that has been washed and is rid of the mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. These are the regulations concerning defiling molds in woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitted material, or any leather article, for pronouncing them clean or unclean.
Okay, so apparently, that's definitely leprosy. They're trying to. 13 was basically leprosy, trying to cover all their. All the leprosy options. It's almost like the priest has become a doctor too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The priest is the first doctor.
Mm-hmm. Hello, knothead. Yeah, that was. Hello. So apparently, if you are unclean, you have to wear torn clothing, live outside the camp.
13. These detailed health regulations excluded many Israelites from their larger society. They were banned from fellowship with others for being ceremonially unclean. Lepers and prostitutes were automatically unclean, according to the law, and were thus ostracized. The fact should help us appreciate even more the compassionate heart of Jesus Christ. He healed lepers and a woman who had been slowly bleeding for years. He talked with prostitutes and other outcasts. He cared most about the needy, the unclean. He considered it his work to show them the way to forgiveness and healing.
Hey Bible readers, I'm Tara Lee Cobble, and I'm your host for the Bible Recap. The Bible Bible Recap is brought to you by D Group, discipleship and Bible study groups that meet in homes and churches around the world each week. It's entirely different from what we're doing here with the Bible Recap, but they fit together perfectly. For more information on D Group, check out today's show notes to watch a short promo video. It's only a minute long. You can also find or start a D Group near you by visiting mydgroup.org/map. We'll also put a link to that in the show notes. Today we enter a section of laws that pertain to cleanness and uncleanness, which, if you recall, is one of the areas God told the priest to be mindful of. We'll be in this section today and a little bit of tomorrow. Today starts with God giving instructions on what to eat and what not to eat. If you felt like this had echoes of Eden in it, you can eat this, but don't eat that, you're spot on. God is recreating all of this space. There are lots of theories on why specific animals are forbidden. Hygiene, deviation from the norm, affiliation with Canaanite culture, but we don't really know. Keeping these food laws is one part of what is referred to in Jewish culture as keeping kosher. There are lots of other aspects to this, but dietary law is a big one. And the saddest part of today's reading was here in 11:7. No bacon. In fact, one of the ways modern archaeologists can tell when and where ancient Jews lived in Israel is because there are no pig bones in that layer of soil. Pigs were wildly popular food among the Canaanites, whom I've never felt such a kinship with until now. So there are pig bones all over pagan country, but not where God's people lived. They're also not allowed to eat anything that dies on its own. It has to be killed. Likely because if it dies on its own, it might have a disease. By the way, the word detestable that we see repeated here only appears twice outside of the book of Leviticus, and one of those times is in reference to idols. So there seems to be a correlation here with turning away from God. In chapter 12, there are laws for women who give birth and how they go about being clean afterward. I can't give you a definitive answer as to why having a female child makes a woman unclean for twice as long as a male child, but it's probably because she was giving birth to someone else who would also bleed and give birth. One thing of note in this chapter, maybe you caught it, is that God does that thing where he makes the sacrifice more affordable for the poor. And guess who was poor? Jesus' parents, Mary and Joseph. How do we know? Because in Luke 2, as they aimed to keep this law after Jesus was born, they didn't bring a lamb. They brought the bird offering for the poor. 2 turtle doves and 2 pigeons. Then we hit a section you did not love if you have a weak stomach. I'm right there with you. Leviticus 13 is probably my least favorite chapter to read every year, but I did it, and I didn't even pass out. I hope you can say the same. As far as I'm concerned, the whole rest of the Bible is a breeze compared to this chapter, even the little bit of this that we have to touch on again tomorrow. I both love and don't love how detailed God gets here. The reason I kind of love it is because Moses was a shepherd, not a doctor. So he needed God to share all these nuanced specifics with him in order to care for the people well. God helped him out with all the variables of skin disease and leprosy. By the way, leprosy as we know it today likely didn't exist back then. The word leprosy in scripture is kind of used as a blanket term for a variety of skin conditions. When someone has any of these conditions, they're considered unclean. And again, that does not equate to sin. They go live outside the camp until they're clean, so as to avoid spreading it, and so that they don't defile the holiness of God's tabernacle. This doesn't mean they're condemned or shamed or unloved. And all the while, God's mediator, the priest, is keeping an eye on them. In doing this, the priest is serving God by keeping things holy, he's serving the healthy people by protecting them, and he's serving the unclean people by keeping a watch on them and making sure they follow God's prescribed rules. You know how patients love to disregard the doctor's orders? Side note, I'm glad baldness isn't considered unclean, or else we'd have a much smaller pool for action heroes in our movies. Have you ever noticed that most of them are bald? Meanwhile, back at the Bible and its boils, I'm looking for my God shot. What was yours? Mine was when God tells them that all these laws are a part of what it means to obey him. In 11:44, he says, I am the Lord your God. He starts with relationship. Then he continues, consecrate yourselves therefore, and be holy, for I am holy. He repeats this almost verbatim in the following verse, and God's repetition should always catch our attention. One interesting aspect of the word consecrate, which we've said means to set apart for sacred use, is that it's kind of the verb form of the adjective holy. In Hebrew, consecrate is kadash, and holy is kadosh. So God is basically repeating himself with this one statement, even before he repeats it again in the next verse. It's like he's saying, set yourselves apart for sacred use. Be set apart as I am set apart. God tells them to imitate his character. He has initiated this process by showing us who he is. We don't have to become something he hasn't first shown us and been to us. If being set apart means being set apart with him, then I want to get my consecration on, because he's where the joy is.
So, I need to read this. So 13:1, it touches on here. It says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but part of it says the priests were responsible for diagnosing defiling skin diseases and determining whether an individual was healed. An individual diagnosed as having a defiling skin disease by the priest was pronounced unclean and was forced to live in isolation. The isolated person engaged in mourning rituals, such as wearing torn clothes or clothing, since his illness was viewed as being linked with the power of death. Now, she said, they were all sent outside the camp to live in isolation. They weren't shunned or anything. They just had to go outside and live there until they got healed. If they were going to be healed, they'd come on back. That reads a little more shunning.
Yeah.
What are you looking up over there?
Trying to figure out why they had to give a sin offering for bearing a child.
I know. Well, ask John. All right, what'd you get out of all this today?
I think I pretty much spilled my load on the last chapter of what I had to say about it. It was kind of... I don't necessarily have a God shot for it, but I guess it's just kind of hard to, I mean, not really hard, but you're trying to think of how we live today versus how the Bible said you were to live. But like I said, I'm just reading it for right now. We haven't got to the New Testament. Like I said,
No, I said I was reading it for right now. You're the one that's like, well, we're not doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm the one that said I'm reading it for right now.
Let's be clear. Make no mistake about it. Don't confuse it.
Let's be clear.
I didn't say we stop eating pork or bacon. I didn't say we stop eating bacon or catfish. I'm just trying to figure out why it was not okay, but now it is okay. Why the Bible is only, why it says this was mostly for the Israelites, which it was written during that time. And I may not be saying it right. I may not be saying it right, but where is, how did Christians pick up the Israelites' laws and continue forward with it? Or did Christians pick up the Israelite book and adjust it to their... all religions adjust it to their...
There is an adaptation, of course, but I'm sure that we'll see that unfold. But it all originated from the 12 tribes.
Yeah, it's just a question that I've got. Where?
How do we get here?
How did we get from here
to here?
Right here to right here. Well, like you said, where's the adjustment? Where did it convert from what the Bible says to what we do?
I don't know. I guess
maybe it's just the generations of raising their children, kind of like now. Our generation and the generations before raised kids respectful, raised kids to work, raised kids many different ways than you see what kids are being raised now. And maybe that's where the adjustments, just evolution has just watered it down.
I think religion is something that you have to hang on to. That's not something that's something that should be, that's not supposed to water down. I think is the problem.
Right, and you're right. I think the generations, they may go to church, but just like me, just like you went to church, but you've never studied the Bible.
I think there's a lot of people that go to church and never studied it.
Yeah, you're right. You've never read from front to back to see what the Bible
And
has
that
to say.
doesn't make you a good Christian. That just, it's something I think that,
Well, you learn from it.
I think it deepens your faith, and I think it tells you, you evolve by learning the Bible, and I think it changes your perspective. That doesn't make you a bad Christian if you haven't read it. I just think it's something that it's a betterment process.
Yeah, I think it betters you, but it brings you back to the unwatered down version that you were taught. You know what I'm saying?
All right, well, is that all you got?
I guess. We're just over an hour. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope y'all have a wonderful Friday. Again, congratulations to the two that we're going to be sending Bibles out, 2 women's Bibles. And maybe we can, in another month or so, we can do drawing, and maybe I can send a guy's Bible out.
Y'all have a good day.
Okay. Oh, I got to resync my button here. Keep talking.
Oh, no.
Tell a joke or something. Do like a monkey dance or something. No?
No.
It's got to resync. Baby, do like a monkey dance. Here we go. Nope. Still no.
Why don't you just push the